Welcome to the first ever SD Media podcast. I don't always have time to write out a full review of everything I see, but I certainly had the time to get some thoughts down and share them with you in this format. Right now, I'm guzzling media to catch up for my best of 2016 lists. Music seems to be the connecting thread right now, so I'll be honing in on that for this inaugural episode. Figuring out my best games of the year has gone so much easier than film, but not for the reasons I'd like. Most of the games that will be on my best of the year list came out earlier in the year. I invested a lot, as I always do, in the Steam sales to catch up with bigger titles and new releases I've missed. Very few of these games will make my list. My recent standouts in gaming rely on music. Thumper, Intralism, and Linea the game are all rhythm games released in 2016. They couldn't be further apart in their approach to the rhythm game genre. Thumper keeps popping up on best of the year lists for good reason. This is a dark, twisted world of electronic music. You play as a metallic sphere beetle fighting Lovecraftian horrors with a simple to learn control scheme. Jump on green squares, flutter, holding jump, over red lasers, and jump and turn, left or right, to coast against a curve. The game is incredibly difficult, but very forgiving. If you lose a stage, the stage restarts. All the levels connect one into the next on an endless black track with the occasional unworldly monster popping up to fight you. You can't lose the game, you just restart. There's a definite style to the music that plays better with headphones on to understand all the nuances needed for survival. I don't have a VR headset, and don't particularly want one, but there is a VR mode in Thumper, and I imagine it's terrifying. Intralism is very different. It's a 4-arrow rhythm timing game that is all about the community. So long as you use music that is available without a license, or you own the rights to, you can create your own levels in the game and submit them to the Steam Workshop. These are quickly available for the other users to play and rate. I tested this out with some of my weird scoring for a recent production of The Crucible, and the level creation interface is easier than playing the game. It's the most intuitive level creator I've ever used. You just bump the arrows in the order and timing you want, rewind, delete, and adjust until you're satisfied. Then you have to actually play the level yourself before you're allowed to submit it for review to the game. There's a wide variety of music and difficulty levels that make this a whole lot of fun. Linea, the game, is the hardest rhythm game I played this week. It's an object avoidance game with only 4 directions to move. You are trying to swing away from the obstacles, not jump or dodge around them, and that makes it all the harder. I think this game has my favorite music of the 3, but frankly, I suck at it. Hard. You have to make it into a minute into a stage to pass it without any checkpoints. It's like Super Hexagon with less control, but much better music. This music focus seems to carry through everything I watched recently. I wound up catching La La Land on Wednesday. The plan was to see Sing, but the showing sold out. This music focus seems to carry through everything I watched recently. I wound up catching La La Land on Wednesday. The plan was to see Sing, but the showing sold out. I'm team original music all the way, and would have gone out to support La La Land even if it received poor reviews. I saw Idlewild and From Justin to Kelly during their theatrical releases. I speak with my ticket money and wish more people would. There is a lot to like in La La Land. Emma Stone is phenomenal. She has a song at the climax of the film that literally relies on her performance alone. She sings the song surrounded in darkness, and the camera slowly zooms in, zooms out, and pans around her. It's breathtaking. Based on that scene alone, I have no problem with her winning Best Actress at the Oscar over actors in more traditionally rewarded work that might have been a bit more challenging. Damien Chazelle, the writer-director of the film, has developed such a strong voice in his short career so far. He is the mastermind behind Whiplash and, strangely enough, one of the screenwriters of 10 Cloverfield Lane. I mean, he also helped write The Last Exorcism Part 2, but we all make mistakes. Chazelle loves music, instrumentalists, and drawing an audience into the nuance of both through film. The level of discourse on jazz, the lifespan of a genre, and the hows and whys of passion in the music and entertainment industry is far more in-depth than I ever imagined for such a critically praised musical. To be perfectly honest, though, I didn't fall in love with La La Land like I hoped I would. I think Once and Begin Again and even Sing Street have covered similar ground in a much more successful way. There just wasn't enough song and dance in this to justify the front-loading of these huge ensemble numbers, beautiful, stunning numbers, that didn't return until the tribute Dream Ballet sequence in the third act, my favorite scene. The references to other Hollywood musicals were cute, but not filling enough for me. Either do nostalgia and do it well, or push the genre in this new indie-tinged way. Chazelle tries to do both without really putting the two approaches in a close enough conversation to feel totally cohesive. The scenes that work really well are the ones where old Hollywood and new independent are smashed together and forced to confront. And that's the relationship between Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling's character. It just doesn't appear enough in that context. La La Land is fun, but it's not going to cure your carpal tunnel syndrome and make you believe in Cthulhu again like some reviews have you believe. Then there's music in films and television I didn't expect to be so important. Krisha, which I wrote a full review for at sketchydetails.us, is an indie drama / dark comedy / character study produced on a micro budget. The original score by Brian McCumber is strange and wonderful. There's this scene that includes the sound of drumsticks being dropped, picked up, and played with again. The scene is meant to bring you into the mind of a woman struggling with addiction, feelings of betrayal, and anxiety the first time she's seen her family in years, and it works beautifully. You sympathize with and learn to fear Krisha because of the music. Keanu is another surprise. I don't think it's a particularly good film, but there's a commitment to a series of gags based on George Michael's music that do work. Keegan-Michael Key and Jordan Peele play two sets of characters. Nerdy guys in the suburbs, and menacing inner-city gangsters behind a recent massacre of a rival gang in a church. And the first set of characters impersonate the second set to try and recover Jordan Peele's beloved cat Keanu. Key's unexpected driving music is George Michael's Faith album, and he winds up having to prove his street cred to young gangsters by convincing them how hardcore the, quote, light-skinned, end quote, singer is, despite his soft sound. He heavily implies that George Michael killed his partner in Wham, and it's hilarious. Rest in peace, George Michael. We'll miss your music. I also gave Tig Notaro's Amazon series One Mississippi another watch this week. It's great, spoiler alert, and was reminded of her job on the show. She's a radio host for a show called Tig's Musical Story Hour. She performs her long-form stand-up jokes over music in the background. It's the first scene of the series and a really engaging one. A moment of levity before we journey with her back to Louisiana and all the medical and relationship drama in her life. I also, before I decided to record this, watched Swiss Army Man, which is insane. It's made by the Daniels, the directing team, and it is the infamous farting corpse movie that people walked out of in Sundance. What I didn't know about it, I mean, I knew it was going to be a fantasy, and maybe it's real, and maybe it's not, and it might just be the delusions of someone who's tried to kill himself and sees a corpse as his last image before he dies. There's no commitment to what is real and what is not. I mean, there's clear fantasy elements, but that's beside the point right now. The score is largely a cappella music, influenced by Paul Dano. He starts to hum something on the beach, and then more and more layers are added, and then sometimes Daniel Radcliffe, who plays the corpse, is the one to start the song and join in. Sometimes there's natural sounds and sometimes there's synthetic sounds. And frankly, it works better as a musical than La La Land. Sorry. Okay, so that's going to be it for this music-driven initial episode of SD Media. Thanks for checking it out. You can follow my writing at sketchydetails.us. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at Robert J. Gannon. On Tumblr at SketchyHaunt, on Twitch at Other Robert, where I'm going to be starting up streams again in the new year, art and gaming streams, and on YouTube as Writing Sketch.